Alright, welcome back to my Resident Evil 2 knife only guided walkthrough. Part 2 of Scenario B, playing as Leon. We ended the previous part by getting the final precinct key from Ada, and we got a message from Claire that she destroyed the wreckage. So our next objective is to get the cogwheel in the room for which we needed the final precinct key, and then we need the crank, which is in a room beyond the wreckage. We haven't had a boss fight yet in this scenario, but that will soon change. In fact, we will encounter two bosses in this episode. Because although you might remember that the giant alligator is already dead when you get there in Scenario B, but that's only the case when you blow up his head with the gas canister, which you obviously cannot do with just a knife. So when the alligator survives, for some reason you have to do the exact same fight over again on Scenario B. Which is a bit lame, but that's the way it is. Okay, if you remember during Scenario A, I left the side pack behind as Claire, so I could pick it up as Leon. However, it's not really worth it, come to think of it, as you tend to carry even less items on Scenario B. And to unlock that room, you are pretty much guaranteed to take massive damage against a room full of lickers. So I decided to merely pick up the herbs in this area and leave the side pack behind. Although, having said that, in a couple of minutes you will see me leaving a first aid spray behind, because I don't have enough inventory space. So, it's not like you can ever have enough space, but that's really the only time in the playthrough where I ever needed to leave stuff behind. I mean, I never had to backtrack back to an item box or something. It's one of the benefits of a knife-only playthrough after all. On a normal playthrough you need to backtrack because you tend to carry 3 separate weapons, all with their own ammunition. So in that sense we should have enough inventory space already in this playthrough. The dog is facing away from you this time, so instead of walking you can just quickly run past it. And in the next room there is a zombie on the floor who is actually still alive and will grab you if you touch him. So there you need to push yourself against the right wall to get past him. And then we get to the hallway that I told you to avoid in the previous episode. But this time we need to get past there. However, if you immediately run towards the payphones and stick to the wall, you can avoid all the zombies. In fact, you even have enough time to pick up the green herb in the corner. There are no enemies in this hallway this time, nor is there a licker in the first room. In fact, not even in the room where you find the cogwheel. However, we have 2 encounters with the tyrant in this section. By the way, I suppose I could have used the key of clubs on the other 2 doors that it can unlock, so I could discard it. That way I could have picked up the first aid spray. But whatever, it is what it is. So don't forget to put this key in an item box later on, because without unlocking the other doors you cannot discard it. Now, once you turn up the heat, make sure to quickly grab your cock, because the big guy is coming, and he's ready to smash. So you better make sure it's a quickie. Stick to the left wall, and as soon as the tyrant breaks through the wall again, start running. He ends up against the right wall, so if you act immediately, you can make it past him before he has the chance to attack. Okay, the way back past the zombies is a bit more tricky, and as you will see, I get too close to the zombie on the right, so I do take a hit. This requires very precise spacing. I haven't tried this, but it might, emphasis on might be possible to lure all of them over to the open space on the left and then run past all of them. But it could be that there are simply too many of them. Well, anyway, I haven't taken that many hits so far in this playthrough, and a single green herb will heal the damage I've taken. We're getting close already to finishing the police station section of the game. We only need the crank to give us access to the final chess piece on the top floor, and the crank can be found beyond the wreckage. So we again have to get past those two lickers again. Twice in fact. So don't forget to walk slowly so they don't get aggroed immediately. Alright, so now we have the crank. There's a transition in the background music as soon as you leave the room, indicating that the tyrant is coming. So we have to do the same thing again as we did during the first confrontation. Turn around and approach him backwards and run away to avoid his punch. Then he will always do an overhead attack, which is your cue to run past him. Again, this is not as easy as it looks. The timing to avoid his punch is very precise. And here we have the lickers again, the final time fortunately, as we don't have to return here. So you should know how to avoid them by now. I actually got a little bit too eager with saving the game, because I used my last ink ribbon, leaving me without one to use before the first boss fight. So I actually had to go out of my way to get a new set. Fortunately, that required nothing more than going down the ladder, as there's a set at the typewriter by the computer on the first floor. So just to emphasize, it's always smart to play things safe and use the typewriters often, but you also shouldn't overdo it. There are plenty of ink ribbons in the game, but they are still a limited resource. Okay, so just like during scenario A, we have to move the bookshelves again, and then on the top floor we get the final chess piece by using the crank and the cogwheel. You know, there's actually a confrontation with the tyrant on this walkway during Claire's version of scenario B. I'm not sure if you can have the same confrontation with Leon, because as Leon you don't have to go back as you can jump down the shaft. I've never tested though whether the tyrant will still show up if you simply choose to go back down across the same walkway. But whatever it may be, we do get this shortcut as Leon, so I'm obviously going to use it.
No! Get away! No! Ben! Can you still hear me? Come on, answer! Damn! I don't believe this. I almost got the story. Ben. Bitter irony. The chief of police, a co-conspirator. Get that sum. Make him pay. Hang in there, Ben.
Leon.
Where are you going, Ada?
To the chemical plant. I have a feeling that's where I'll find John.
Ada, wait! Hey!
Leon, are you still there? We're leaving.
Are you crazy? The streets are still crawling with zombies.
It'll be all right, trust me. We found a way to the sewer. Follow us later.
Claire! Claire! Wait, wait! Man, why doesn't anyone ever listen to me?
Well, that sucks for Ben, but at least his chest isn't burning in this timeline. So let's go through the sewers again, and then it's finally time for a boss fight. By the way, important detail, remember that I switched the controls to control type C for the final boss fight during scenario A? Well, that's still the setting that I have selected for this playthrough, and it helps out a lot when fighting this and the next form of Birkin, because you have more or less this sort of auto aim on this control setting. So make sure you have control type C selected. Alright, like most bosses in this game, they are easy in principle, but quite tricky in execution. And it's all about spacing. The thing about this form of Birkin is that he uses that metal bar as a weapon, and it actually bounces off when he hits the railing or any other obstacle in fact. So that will help you out a lot when avoiding his attacks. Make sure to always move counterclockwise around him, because he attacks with his right arm. The annoying thing though, and you will see me take a hit because of this, is that there simply might not always be room to move counterclockwise around him, because there simply is so little space to even move around. However, it is still easiest to fight him in the center of the room in my experience. Also, make sure you don't get greedy. Attack once, and preferably only after he attacked first. Only when he is growling, you might want to risk doing a second attack. Or when you see him do this short stagger motion. But in general, it really is safest to only attack once. And keep circling around him until he attacks before you attack. Now, the most important thing to be wary of is that Birkin has a specific move that is a guaranteed one-hit kill. If you get knocked on the ground and he does a charged overhead attack, you are dead. It doesn't matter how much life you have left, it's a guaranteed kill. So if you get knocked down, quickly mash buttons to make yourself stand up faster. However, even if you are standing up, if he is already in the overhead attack animation, as long as the attack connects, it still will count as a one-hit kill. So this boss is much more dangerous than you might initially think. One last thing, at the end of the fight, Birkin will throw himself over the railing, and you can hear that he is about to do this because the music will stop. However, do not make the mistake I did and keep attacking, because he will swing a couple of times even after you essentially already defeated him. Alright, first boss down, but as you know, Birkin is coming back later on and he will be a lot more dangerous then.
Ada! What was that all about? Running off like that was reckless and stupid. Those zombies are everywhere. Not to mention that thing that...
I was there, Leon. I know.
Look, Ada. As an officer, it's my job to look out for you. But we're not going to get through this alive if we don't work together. Okay?
All right. We'll do this your way for now.
Okay, so the first section after the police station is mostly exposition, so there's little to say about it. You have another short bit where you play as Ada, and after that you only have a couple of easy to avoid spiders to get past. However, as I said before, we have to fight the alligator from scenario A again, because we couldn't actually kill it back then. Oh, and make sure to equip the valve, as we're going to need to turn the bridge. Twice in fact, just like before on scenario A.
Ada! Heads up!
Leon, that woman was... I have to talk to her. Don't move. You're the one who was with that cop, if I'm not mistaken. Identify yourself. Ada Wong. Ada Wong. I've heard that name before. Now I remember. One of the men from Chicago who came to assist the T-virus research used his girlfriend's name as his password. Ada and John, I believe. How did you know? Who are you? Annette Birkin. My husband is the man responsible for the creation of the T-virus, William Birkin. What? John's dead. He became one of those zombies. My condolences. And although I regret this, you will be joining him shortly. I won't let anyone take the G-virus away from me. G-virus? It's capable of creating the ultimate bioweapon. Its potential is even greater than that of the T-virus. Then that must mean the creature in the police department is... precisely my husband, William. And it's all Umbrella's fault. None of this would have happened if they hadn't tried to steal his research away from him. Where did you get that pendant? It looks exactly like the one I gave Sherry.
She dropped it. I've been holding on to it for her.
Liar! Give it back to me!
Too bad.
Ada?
Okay, so regarding the alligator fight, it is literally the exact same thing as before on scenario A. The only difference is that at the end the boss dies instead of running away. This means that I already explained how to defeat this boss. I still can't pull off slowing the boss down around the section where the gas canister is. I still think that has to do with the version of the game being used. But at least now I didn't mess up at the part where he puts his left paw against the wall, indicating that you need to move back to avoid getting hit. But like before, when you get near the end of the hallway, don't even bother with trying to avoid damage. You need to keep stabbing, because if the boss doesn't die at that point, you will get automatically killed when he reaches the end of the hallway. After all, that is scripted and therefore unavoidable.
Leon.
This bullet wound isn't making things any easier.
Quiet, Leon. I'll patch you up. That's 2 I owe you.
Don't mention it.
I just found out. John's dead.
What?
Never mind. Let's just get out of here. The sooner the better.
Alright, and that's it for the second episode. First 2 bosses down, but it won't be long before we face William Birkin's third form. So stay tuned for the next episode, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and the notification bell. And of course, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for watching.